Times in sports, we talk about and call players GOATs, coaches GOATs, or the greatest of all time. And over the last decade, I think that we've been in a situation where when we talk about the GOATs or the greatest of all time, whether it be Drew Brees, whether it be Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, whoever you believe is the best of all time from a football perspective, or regardless if it's baseball, if you think Barry Bonds or whoever it may be in baseball, or if you think Michael is the GOAT or LeBron is the GOAT, we always have the conversation and call people GOATs, the greatest of all time. And in the last decade, what has happened here has been that kind of word and verbiage has kind of gone by the wayside a little bit because we use it so much. We use the word GOAT. We use the greatest of all time so much that sometimes it gets diluted. But then you have a situation like today with Tyrann Mathieu announcing his retirement from the New Orleans Saints. And a guy at LSU and for the local community may have had the biggest impact of them all. You know, Tyrann Mathieu at LSU will be a living legend, and he should be. To me, Tyrann Mathieu is the best LSU defender of all time in my lifetime, and I could make the argument and would humbly make the argument that he's the greatest of all time. You know, Tyrann Mathieu in 2 seasons had 133 tackles at LSU with 6 sacks. He had 4 interceptions with 16 passes broken up. He had 8 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries for a touchdown, 11 forced fumbles, 2 punt returns for a touchdown, 2 fumble recoveries for a touchdown. And in 2011 and in 2010, I remember there being situations where even with people that I knew that was on the team, they would tell me, Blake, we think that Tyrann Mathieu might be the best player on the team. You know, I remember the summer of 2010 when seeing a friend like Brandon Taylor, your former number 18, and him coming back home, a guy that I went to school with and admired dearly, and him telling me like, hey, man, there's this dude named Tyrann Mathieu out of St. Aug who is a playmaker. And then in 2011, when LSU made the run to the national championship, Tyrann Mathieu was the face of that program for everything that he did. You know, I remember games with Tyrann Mathieu even as a freshman, like the diving interception versus Texas A&M in the bowl game, the forced fumble and fumble recovery against A&M in that bowl game, and then going into 2011, when you go into talking season like what we are in right now, there being so many people saying, well, hey, Tyrann Mathieu is taking over number 7. Is he going to be in the next lineage of Patrick Peterson? And what really started the DBU run and the verbiage of DBU. You know, no one called themselves DBU until LSU made it cool. And then Tyrann Mathieu would go into the 2011 season and what should have been and probably should have been the Heisman Trophy winner. You know, for me, I have watched, and I know a lot of you that are watching this show currently, you have watched a lot of LSU sports and a lot of LSU football. And to me, outside of guys like Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow, I don't know if anybody has made a bigger impact during a season for LSU ever. Tyrann Mathieu is the best LSU defender of all time in my lifetime. And for me, I think he's the best LSU defender of all time. Guys, we've never seen someone like Tyrann Mathieu grace us in college football and do the things that he did, like what he did in 2011. He was an offensive playmaker playing defense. The ball continuously found number 7, whether he was forcing fumbles, whether he was picking up fumbles and running them in for touchdowns, whether it be the electric punt returns like he had against Arkansas that tied the game, or whether it was the SEC championship game in 2011 versus Georgia when LSU was down 10 and then he scores that epic or has that epic score, and then the game is flipped and LSU would go on to win another SEC championship. It was beautiful. I look at a guy like Tyrann Mathieu and the impact that he had in college sports, and I see him announcing his retirement today in what was a long lineage of elite football by number 7. Guys, make no mistake about it. Tyrann Mathieu, to me, is the best LSU defender of all time. And there have been some greats. I think of Patrick Peterson. I think of Glenn Dorsey. I think of all the big names that have come through that building and are greats, LSU legends. But I don't know if any of them can come close to what Tyrann Mathieu did in 2011. Now, you could fast forward to what happened to Tyrann at the end of his LSU career in 2012 and talk about the suspension. But I think Tyrann Mathieu, and even Tyrann Mathieu himself, has said, going through that adversity and going through that situation, and Patrick Peterson going to the Cardinals and saying, I will mold him, I will take him under my wing, you don't have to worry. And a guy for the next decade plus would be an example to every Louisiana player that wants to grow up and grew up wanting to be like number 7. I think of situations, too, that come to mind for me of him donating over $1 million and giving it back to LSU, and that's why his name and his face and his picture is on the wall. Guys, he's an all-time great. He's an all-time LSU legend. Now, 2 times in this opening segment, I've said I think he's the best LSU defender in my lifetime. No, I think he's the best LSU defender ever. I think he might be the best one of the best LSU players ever. You know, I think of Joe Burrow. I think of Jaden Daniels. I think of Malik Neighbors. I think of Brian Thomas. I think of Joe Burrow. I think of Justin Jefferson. I think of Jamar Chase. And I look at Tyrann Mathieu and I say, guys, he might be in the top 2 or 3, and he might not even be 2 or 3 to some. The favorite for most LSU people is always going to be number 7. The lasting legacy that he will leave here and what he will do. And guys, his life isn't over. I'm talking about him, I guess, in some sense, like his life is over, because it's not. Guys, he's 30-something years old. And there's no telling what his impact can now, since he's retired, be for Louisiana State University. But all of the great instances where number 7 on the field and what he did for us will go down in infamy. It will go down in legacy. It will never be erased. Today, I shared a short clip of Tyrann Mathieu's best highlights, and some of them that we already have gone through. I think of the Arkansas punt return. I think of the Georgia punt return. The guys, I don't know if I've ever seen someone stop and start on a dime better than Tyrann Mathieu. Maybe Reggie Bush would be the only other person. I think of Tyrann Mathieu as a freshman coming off the edge against Mississippi State on 3rd down and getting a sack and forcing another fumble. I think about the interception versus Florida in the back of the end zone to seal a massive win for you against a top 25 opponent. Probably even stealing that interception from Brandon Taylor. I think of all the electric stuff that he did that, guys, has not been replicated. You know, this past year, there was a Heisman given to a guy by the name of Travis Hunter. And I'm not saying that Travis Hunter was not worthy of the Heisman that he received, because he was. But, guys, the last time an LSU defender won a Heisman was this past year, a guy that played on both sides of the ball. Nobody has had the impact defensively in a game-in, game-out scenario more than Tyrann Mathieu as a defender. You know, I think of you being down 6-3 against Oregon in what might have been the most epic opener of all time. Number 3 versus number 4. And you being down 6-3 and you stalling on yet another Les Miles offensive drive, and then a forced fumble is created by Tyrann Mathieu and he picks it up and he scores. Game was over. Teams and people and players going away from number 7 because they were like, listen, man, he might not be the biggest. He might not be the strongest. He might not be the fastest, but he's the best player on the field at every given moment when he steps on it. Tyrann Mathieu retired from the New Orleans Saints today, and the only thing that I can say is thank you. And I believe that you're the best LSU defender of all time. Tyrann Mathieu made LSU cool. He embodied what LSU in Louisiana was. He made a stand in saying, all I want to do is wear the purple and gold. And he did, and he wore it proudly. To Tyrann Mathieu, the best LSU defender of all time, I hope you have a great retirement. I hope to see you on LSU sidelines yet again. And boy, does LSU analyst Tyrann Mathieu have a really good ring to it. Now, some of you will say, make him the DB's coach. I don't think that will happen. Maybe you can make him a safeties coach. I don't know. If Jake Olsen doesn't perform, I don't know. But if I had a very sneaky suspicion, I don't think Tyrann Mathieu's LSU legacy is over. In some regards and in some thoughts, I think it's just beginning. So to Tyrann Mathieu, and I'm going to say this, the best number 7 of all time. Happy retirement, my friend. It was more than an honor to watch everything that you've done in your career. And hey, who's to say that you won't grace us on LSU sidelines yet again? Luke, let's get to a couple comments. We got a lot to discuss tonight. Luke says the forced fumble versus Arkansas. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, listen, here are just some of the plays that I pulled up today that were really game definers in some regards, but just absolutely ridiculous plays. Let's go to them. The diving interception against A&M in the bowl game, the forced fumble and fumble recovery for a touchdown against A&M in the bowl game, the punt return to tie the game versus Arkansas, and what was a top 5 matchup at the end of the season, the INT, the diving interception versus West Virginia, and then the 2 forced fumbles that he created against West Virginia in 2011. The first one was in 2010, the diving interception. The Oregon punt, the punt that he created the forced fumble and then picked up the forced fumble and then had a touchdown to give LSU the lead. The forced fumble and the fumble recovery versus Arkansas is absolutely ridiculous. Guys, think about this. In the fumble recovery against Arkansas, when you're beating their doors down, Tyrann Mathieu, you can go into this play, shook this many defenders. 9. Making sure that's not 7. No, it's 9. Shook 9 defenders before he went down. I think the strip sack versus North Carolina in the first game against TJ Yates that Tyrann Mathieu ever played in college. Boy, it would look good seeing the number 7 again come off the edge in the slot and get a sack, wouldn't it? Harold Perkins, you're up. The punt return touchdown in the SEC championship game versus Georgia, the second one where he almost took it to the house and had a shoelace tackle where he fell down, was absolutely insane. And, guys, I thought he should have won the Heisman in 2011. I really believe that he should have won the Heisman in 2011. I think it was by far, had a better season than Robert Griffin III. Now, RG3 had a great season too. He had a fantastic season. Andrew Luck, I think, was a part of that season as well. Trent Richardson was a part of that year. Monty Ball. But make no mistake about it, Tyrann Mathieu was the best player in college football in 2011. I don't think it's remotely close. Paul's Up Martin says, Aussie gone, Honey Badger retiring. It's only Tuesday. Should I be concerned by the rest of the week? You know, it's funny, Paul's Up. My mom said the same thing. She literally told me the same thing today. And your boy from the Cosby Show passed. Normally these things come in threes, hopefully. But the Tyrann Mathieu news, I don't think is as bad as people are making it out to be, right? I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. He retired, man. He retired a millionaire. Good for him. Luke also says he just didn't show up when we needed him the most in the Natty game. I don't agree with that. Luke, here's the thing about Tyrann Mathieu in the national championship game. You didn't score a touchdown in 8 quarters versus Bama. Tyrann Mathieu always showed up. I mean, if you can't score an offensive touchdown, that ain't on him. Not even close to being on him. So, no. Tyrann Mathieu always showed up for you. Justin Jefferson, that offensive line, and Les Miles and the offensive play calling didn't show up. Noah Mason is watching in Plano, Texas. He says, go Tigers. Good to have you in here. Yes, where is everybody watching from tonight? Jermaine Green is in the 251. Good to have you in here as well. Talkie is in the 318. 3-1 great. You got to love the 318, baby. Got to love the 318. Brock TV says Theo Huxtable died yesterday as well. Yeah, man, that's sad, dude. At 50-something years old. At 50-something years old, guys, that's not that old. I mean, for some of us, it's less than 10 years away. You know, I mean, that's not, I mean, that, yeah. Ken Mallory, what's up, Ken? Says the 205 Beham is in here. Good to have you in here with us as well. Eric Wright says the 2011 SEC championship game versus Georgia was electric. Oh, dude. Oh, man. Absolutely insane. I think, too, of the Florida interception, I think of so many just small things that he had. You know, as a Brandon Taylor homer and a guy that we had on the show a couple of times and the guy I grew up with. I thought Brandon was about to get a pick, and then here comes Tyrann. Like, come on, man. Let my boy BT get one. Come on, man. You don't need that one. But he did. I mean, just insane. Just absolutely insane. Tech is in the 804 Richmond, Virginia stand-up. Good to have you in here. High Point Media says Tyrann Mathieu wins the Heisman if he doesn't have off-the-field issues in 2011. He didn't have off-the-field issues in 2011, did he? I thought it was 2012. No, I think the timeline's a little bit messed up on that. I think the timeline might be a little bit messed up on that, unless I'm completely misremembering something. Unless I'm completely misremembering. I don't think that I am, but it is what it is. All right, a couple more, then we're getting out of here. We're getting to a break here. George Ray says, Tyrann Mathieu, why he didn't win the Jim Thorpe Award. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. Guys, here's the truth, though. And all the things that he didn't do, for me, again, and we could sit here all day. We legitimately could sit here all day and talk about all the current situations of things that he did and didn't do, or things that didn't get accomplished that should have gotten accomplished. And listen, like, I didn't want to bring this up, but I think of the suspension. Like, guys, let me ask y'all a question. When's the last time y'all seen an LSU player suspended for weed? Now, if you're an LSU diehard, you remember all this stuff happening. You remember, like, the situation with Christian Fulton, and God bless it, Christian Fulton came back to LSU for the first time since the national championship game. And I'm glad to have Christian Fulton back in the fold here with LSU. Good on BK for bringing these dudes back, by the way, because Les Miles did not do that. That's neither here nor there. I mean, listen, the whole suspension. Guys, LSU players aren't getting popped for weed anymore. In most states, in most situations, you can, and I am not, for what it's worth, I am not saying you should do this, but in some states, it is legal. In most states, you can buy things like Delta 9 or Delta 8, whatever it's called. You can buy actual THC gummies. Think about that. Guys, there are people that have stores on street corners now for weed. And that guy got suspended in 2012, 13 years ago. Got kicked out of school because of it, for a little weed. Look. There's absolutely nothing different, I promise you. There's nothing different in having a filter alcohol on his counter versus him having some weed on his counter. I promise you that. As someone who has friends that indulge in the green leafy substances. Again, Like the whole suspension thing, LSU they made the wrong move. Suspend him a couple of games and get him back out there. It's like, guys, this shit, it's so dumb. But it made him better. It made him a better person. And he's talked about that. So, listen, I mean, it is what it is. I just think so dumb. So dumb. All right, last one, then we're getting rolling here. Brandon Reese says 2011 LSU secondary was a lockdown unit. Guys, I really legitimately believe, speaking of that, I tweeted this earlier today, and I didn't want to come out there and just say it on here, but I think it's the best college football secondary of all time. Name a better one. Please. You're wrong if you named another one. I mean, guys, no. Absolutely elite at everything that they did. And, you know, the question is can Corey and Jake and some of the analysts and off-field personnel build it to what it was? You know, I saw that Bolden is in the building. I'm sure Petito will be in the building soon, officially. I'm sure Jeff Martin will be in the building officially, and they got to go out there and make that unit great again. No political reference there. You know what I'm trying to say. So, yeah. All right. Let's get moving here. Oh, hold on. Jack with a really good one. Jack says, yeah, the 2 strip sacks he had against Kentucky, too, and Oregon were unbelievable. Absolutely, dude. I mean, the last time you saw number 7 do it, Harold Perkins, what's up? Now, sidebar. Guys, I'm telling you right now for what I know. I'm telling this is going to happen. If Harold Perkins plays that star role, the big slot for the defense, guys, they're going to send him on blitzes, and they need to send him from the outside. Unless offensive lines do something very unique to shade over to him or they do something different, guys, running backs and tight ends are going to have to pick up number 7. There's not a running back that can consistently – there's not a tight end that can consistently beat Harold Perkins, and I think Harold's going to come back fully healthy. I think he is fully healthy. I talked to some people last week about Perk because Perk slimmed down, and from an analytical, like, off-season workout stuff, he's actually been a little bit better, more freshman-esque type numbers from what I'm told about Perk. Guys, he can have that same type of impact, and I hope that they send him. Send number 7. Go to a zone. Do what you need to do. You went and got Cooley for that exact reason, to play the slot, let him go in as a safety, go man-to-man coverage and send number 7, and then send number 6 on the other side and watch what's going to happen. Put Jamari Butler against a guard on the interior in what will be a pass rush, what he showed as a pass rush skill for him last year. Guys, he dominated in some areas in the Big Ten doing that. LSU's got a lot of weapons, and I hope number 7 is a big part of that. All right. Let's get moving here. Shots taken at the SEC today. We'll break some of those things down. Guys, we don't normally do this. There's some big things that we need to get to about college football as a whole. We're going to get into that as well. Shaquille O'Neal makes a massive statement about LSU basketball, how that affects LSU football. We'll talk about that as well. The over-under for LSU set at 8.5. It's technically at 8.4. We're going to talk about that. I think it's a little low, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's a little bit low. We'll talk about collectives remaining. And so the big old question that has been out there and asked, Blake, do you think collectives will remain the same for LSU, and should I continue to give? The answer is yes, as that news has come down today. So we'll get into all that as well. And at the end, we'll get you some of your thoughts, questions, and concerns here. Let me get to a quick break. But before we do that, let me talk about my friends over at Section 103, where their apparel is more comfortable than those club seats that you're seating in. Guys, I need you to do me a favor. Go over. Actually, you need to do yourself a favor. Go over to section103.com. Go to the LSU section. Go and look at all the hats and apparel that they have on their website. Guys, I wore one of their shirts again today. Not joking. I think it's the best fitting shirt that I have, t-shirt that I have. By the way, I wore that really badass white hat today as well. Go over to section103.com. Go to the LSU section. Use the promo code AYS at checkout. You'll get 10% off of your order when you do that. That's section103.com, where their apparel is more comfortable than those club seats that you're sitting in. And before we do get rolling here, I need to say this. it always makes me feel very good when sponsors of this show go to our not the sponsors of the show, when the listeners of the show go to the sponsors of my show and do business with them. And today that happened. We're about to play an ad from our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. Sheridan and Ryan are absolutely fantastic people. Special shout out to Kevin. Now, I didn't get Kevin's last name, and I'm glad that I didn't because I don't want to loud cap him like that. But Kevin texted Sheridan today and said, listen, I heard your ad run on AYS. I'm going to do business with you. I talked to Sheridan and Ryan today over Red Stick Financial. Guys, listen to me. I don't come out here and just run ads just willy-nilly. The people that we partner with are absolutely elite at what they do. Just call Sheridan and Ryan and see if they can help you. And I'm very proud that some of you really take hold and help us by going over to Sheridan, going over to any sponsor that we have here. It really humbles me so much that we are able to do that. And shout out to Sheridan and Ryan, who are absolutely killing the game in the mortgage business. Let's do this. Let's get to a quick break. When we come back, we got lots to discuss. Do us a favor. Hit the like and share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. If you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Also, on August the 1st, we are going to be making a pretty massive announcement here. It will transform the show, and the reason it does is because all of you are in here. I am humbled tonight to sit here in front of you and tell you thank you. And August the 1st, I'll be able to go over here, come on here and tell you why. But until then, I'm gonna stand pat. Thank you for all that you do, because a lot of you have supported us from the very beginning. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, we got lots to discuss. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick.
We're back.
By the way, I'm gonna talk about this. Taki says I feel terrible for the first guy that Perk gets his sights set on. I hope this is the year for 7. Sending him off the edge is the best thing that he does. And guys, you're putting him in a position where it can be multiple, but at the same time, set a very unique set of skills, like the movie Taken, and get after him. Either offensive lines for Harold Perkins are going to have to slide protect or do some very unique things that they normally don't do to get to him if they want to tackle taking on Perk, or they're going to have to block him with running backs and tight ends. Let's say hypothetically they do something unique and they try to use a tackle to get to Perkins. If that happens, then it frees up guys in the interior. It frees up what Blake has dialed up even in the past and what he does in the interior. And it certainly frees up Patrick Payton and Jamari Butler and Jack Pyburn and Gabe Relaford for what it's worth. If that is the case, that is why I have been so high on this quote-unquote edge unit, because I think that some of the unique things that your roster presents from an edge perspective, guys, I think the sky is the limit. I went on with Mike Detillier and today on WWL. I was asked about the edge unit. I think I can make, and I throw Perk into that as well. Some don't agree. They want to put him in the safety room, whatever. I don't care. For me, I think that it might be your best unit. I am very high on this edge unit. I am very high on what they can do and what they can present with Patrick Payton, Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler, Gabe Relaford, and when you're sending Harold Perkins, what you can do there. Again, the level of production I think that you're going to get there might be bar none. I am very high on it. I hope that I'm not wrong, but from what I've seen and just what I've seen from some of these guys in the past, guys, every one of them brings something unique. That is the thing that is so interesting about LSU's edge room, is I think Patrick Payton is different from Jack Pyburn. Jamari Butler is different from Gabe Relaford. Gabe Relaford is different from Patrick Payton. When you're bringing Harold Perkins in on a blitz from that star role, which you did so many times last year, it brings and presents so many different things. If Jamari Butler is a better fit for a specific game, then roll him out there. If Jack Pyburn or Patrick Payton or Gabe Relaford, the depth that you have there right now under Kevin Peoples and what you did, assuming you were going to do some of the same stuff you did last year at sending that slot position or that star position with Harold Perkins, you start presenting a very unique set of skills that I don't know if not only if there's a lot of SEC teams that can do that, I don't know if many teams in all of college football can do that. I am so high on them in doing that. We have a guy in AJ Halsey that we got from the portal who, guys, we've seen some of the stuff that he did at safety while being in the box as well, whether it be against you literally with New Mexico or it being last year with Houston. The overall things and things that you can present teams is very scary. I see the comment about Harold Perkins, and it just makes me now that, guys, we're a week away. We're a week away from camp. We're getting so close here. I'm a little bit more than a week away from camp. We're getting super duper close. I'm in a spot and position and situation where I look at this entire situation and say to myself, man, that unit might be the best. We'll see how cool it is and how clutch it is. All right, let's get to it. So the Big Ten and SEC media, Big Ten and SEC, the Big Ten and ACC media days started off today, and boy, the SEC was taking some shots. And you know, on this show, we normally don't talk about these kinds of things at great depth, right? We don't talk about the SEC a lot as a whole on this show. Normally, we keep it within an hour. Normally, the entire hour is solely dedicated to LSU-related stuff. We're going to talk about a lot of LSU-related stuff tonight, and we already have in 37 minutes since we've been live. We need to talk about a couple of things as regards to LSU and as regards to college football. The Big Ten today had their media days, and there were a couple of massive statements that came out there. I want to start off with number one. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Batiti came out at media days today and talked about the AQ playoff model. Now, some of you have heard me talk about this ad nauseum, and I think that we need to have a serious conversation on the show about it. Guys, I am not a proponent, and then some of you that have watched this have already know this. I am not a proponent for the AQ model. I think college football sits in a very unique place right now. The reason I think it sits in a very unique place right now is because of all the differences of opinions that are coming up about all the things that we're trying to deal with. Do we expand to 16 teams? Do we keep it at 12? Do we go to an automatic qualifier? And if you don't know what an automatic qualifier and what the Big Ten is trying to push, they want 4 positions for 4 slots for the Big Ten, 4 slots for the SEC, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12, 1 for the Group of 5, and 1 at-large team to get you to 16. And I am not a proponent of that. I don't like that because I want the best teams in December to be playing in January, to be playing meaningful football. I don't want somebody from some other conference, if they have a down year or they're not that good, to get in. Why would I want that as a college football fan? But today, Tony Petitti came out there and had multiple statements and a couple of shots at the SEC. And I don't think the AQ model is one of them, but I think in a way it is. The way that I think that it is, guys, historically, the SEC, if you start expanding the playoffs, would just get in more teams than the Big Ten would. Last year, you would have gotten more. 2 years ago, you would have gotten more. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All of those years, the SEC would have gotten more teams in the college football playoff if you would have expanded it to 16. Now, I do think the maybe comfortable number is 8 if you're going to expand it and keep it there. But I know none of us are going to agree. But the bottom line remains is that Tony Petitti ran out there today and said a couple of things. That he is fully behind the AQ model and stating that I don't know why mathematicians and other people are a part of this committee. Well, there's a reason that these mathematicians are there because in the new model of college football and the college football playoff, strength of schedule has got to matter. Last year, Indiana, and we'll talk about Curt Cignetti in just a moment, SMU, Boise State, etc., did not have to go through the gauntlet that you did. For teams like Texas or teams like Tennessee, guys, Tennessee had the worst out of the SEC strength of schedules, and they still played Bama, and they still played Georgia, the SEC champion. They still had to go on the road in hostile environments and pull one out, and they did. Some of the Big Ten teams, like Indiana, don't have to go through that. You know, a down year playing in the Big Ten is going through Indiana's schedule. A down year in the SEC and having a down year in the SEC schedule is playing Bama and is playing Georgia. That doesn't seem really fair to me. I look at the SEC in this regard. Do you have something to prove after losing 2 national titles, Michigan 2 years ago and Ohio State this one? Sure. But it's not like it hasn't happened in the last decade. Oh, wait. Literally a decade ago when the playoffs expanded and you didn't have 2 teams, you had 4 teams. Well, the first 2 national champions were not from the SEC. They just weren't. You had a situation where Florida State and then Ohio State won the national championship, beating Auburn, and Ohio State in the semifinal, beating Alabama to go on and win a national title. It was the last time that the SEC had 4 new coaches inside the league that were under 4 years or better. It was the first time in really a decade that the SEC wasn't dominant and didn't win back-to-back or didn't win one of the last 2. I look at the SEC in this regard. I look in the SEC in why would I want to go to an automatic qualifier? Why would I want the conference that my favorite team in LSU, why would I want them to go to an automatic qualifier? Now, one massive caveat to the automatic qualifier, by the way, there's going to be play-in games for this AQ model. Meaning on Championship Saturday, when normally you would play the SEC championship game, not only do you have to go through the gauntlet of the SEC during the regular season, but then you have to do in play-in games to get into the playoff. That sounds really dumb to me. it dilutes the regular season. What has made college football unique in its infancy is something very simple. Every single Saturday mattered. Every single one of them. And the reason every single one of them mattered, because, man, if you have one loss, maybe you can survive it. But, man, if you have two, you're in massive trouble, buddy. You're not making the playoffs, and you might be on the outside looking in. Well, you expanded to 12, and, well, you can afford two losses. It's that third one that will get you. Guys, if we go and the Big Ten gets what they want and we get automatic qualifiers, essentially you're going to get a 30-team playoff. Blake, how did you go from 12 to 16 to 30? Well, if the Big Ten gets what they want and everybody's got to do in playing games and everybody's got to go through the attrition, the Big Ten does not go through the same attrition as the SEC. They simply do not. And what is a playing game anyway? Guys, it's a win or go home scenario. So Eli Drinkwitz last week at SEC Media Day said, I think we should expand college football playoff to 30 teams and 30 different teams and fans being engaged. And Tony Batiti, ironically, said the same exact thing today. More teams will be engaged. Okay, maybe. But I'm going to be engaged with LSU no matter what. And I think you will too. And if LSU is in a 16 playoff field, guys, I'm going to be engaged whether it's an AQ model or not an AQ model. You know, we have gotten to a situation where you could be and accept the AQ model, and you can really like it because it's got massive flaws in it. The massive flaws that are in it is that you have games like Clemson versus South Carolina a year ago that meant nothing. South Carolina goes into Clemson. Lenore Sellers goes off. They beat Clemson on the road. Well, Clemson, because they just play in the ACC and the ACC is down and trash, they don't have to go through any form of real gauntlet from a week-to-week basis like you do. Well, they go and play an SEC team at the end of the year, the 7th team in the SEC last year, and they lost at home. Why would I want some of these teams in? Well, Blake, what about keeping it regional? South Carolina and Clemson are in the same damn state. Why wouldn't I want South Carolina in over Clemson? They're from the same state. Don't talk to me about regionality. We had one team from the West Coast last year on the far left West Coast, and then you add in Boise State because of a G5. And, at least we got regionality. Both of those teams lost in the first game that they played in the playoff last season. Because, wait for it, chalk won out. The teams that recruit the best and have the best talent won out. Who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought that chalk would win out? Guys, I don't know if you're in the same boat as me. I don't think you can go to any other model that has been proposed outside of the 5+11. I don't. Because then you're expanding the playoff in November, essentially doing playing games, having essentially a 30-team playoff, and it dilutes the regular season. Why would I want to give up every given Saturday being so intense that if you don't win, it could be catastrophic? That is what's made college football unique. And I'll bring up another thing for you. I keep hearing a lot of you and a lot of people in the media talking about, well, let's do a model like the NFL. Guys, the second best team in the NFL based off a record got a wild card, was an at-large bid, and a lower at-large bid. The Vikings. So the regular season and them doing as great as they did and winning all those games meant nothing. It meant nothing. What does it matter? I can go 11-6 or 11-7. I can go 12-6. I can go 12, whatever, 12-5, whatever it is. I can go that, and it doesn't really matter because if I'm not gonna win in my division, I'm gonna get in the playoff in the same spot. Whether they would have won 10 games or if they would have won 12 games, it meant nothing to them. They didn't get rewarded for what they did in the regular season because, guys, at the end of the day, it didn't matter outside of winning their division. None of it mattered. Hey, we didn't win the division. We got in the playoff. Doesn't really matter. I would love to win the division. Everybody wants to win the division. Everybody wants to win the SEC. Everyone wants to win the Big Ten. Sounds good. But losing to Iowa or losing to Florida didn't matter on my record because I still have a chance for the ultimate goal, and that's winning a national title. Because never mistake it, that is, especially at this place, the goal. I even don't like the 5+11. I think we should find a way to get the best teams in. And I know that there's no way that we can do that logically. I'm okay with the 5 conference champions in the group of 5 or 4 conference champions in the group of 5 getting someone in. But guys, think about this. If you go to that AQ model, there are no at-large bids, really, because Notre Dame can be there in a consistent basis. They can. Guys, I'm not trying to hit the panic button on this one. I'm going to hit the panic button, though, because I don't want the playoffs to expand, and I don't think that they should expand. And I think Greg Sankey should stand on his own and not back down. And if Greg Sankey folds or if Tony Petitti folds, they're going to look weak. Either one of them fold, they're going to look weak. And I think the best thing for the SEC, I think the best thing for my team is not to get an automatic qualifier. I think the best and most rich thing about my team and my regular season and my playoff that all of us want to go and watch. Guys, the at-large bid would make every Saturday more intense. It's not the only thing that's happened. The SEC and the Big Ten are at war right now, on and off the field. You got guys like Kirk Cignetti from Indiana taking shots at the SEC, saying the reason that we canceled our home and home with Virginia, a P4 team, was because we're trying to be like the SEC. Well, that's really funny to me that he said that, because I look at the out-of-conference games that the SEC are playing this year, like Texas going to Ohio State, LSU going to Clemson, Bama going to Florida State, South Carolina versus Virginia Tech, Missouri versus Kansas, Oklahoma versus Michigan, South Carolina versus Clemson, A&M versus Notre Dame, Arkansas versus Notre Dame, Florida versus Florida State, Florida versus Miami. How many more out-of-conference games do I need? What do I have to prove to you? You're not going through the same gauntlet that I'm going through. Everybody today, whether it be, I shouldn't say everybody. The shots coming from the Big Ten, the shots coming from the ACC today, in reference to them being at media days, whether it be Kurt Cignetti, whether it be Rhett Lashley, or some of the itty-bitty shots that Tony Petitti tried to take at the SEC too. We don't care if you go to stay at 8 conference games or 9 conference games. It doesn't matter to us. You know what really matters to us? We think the best model is the model where who has the best record in their own conference. That's really interesting. That's really interesting because there's a team in the SEC last year, and all of you LSU fans are going to hate this. Guys, Bama went 4-1 against top 25 opponents last year when Indiana didn't beat but one team above 500. Now, I don't like Alabama at all. At all. I don't like them at all. But there also comes up one point in this. The one point that comes up in this, who deserved to be in there? Bama or Indiana? Take Alabama out of the equation. Ole Miss, South Carolina. Guys, all 3 of those teams, you saw up close and personal. LSU virtually ended the playoff runs for South Carolina and Ole Miss a season ago. They were a massive part of ending those runs. Now, you could say Florida. You can say who else for South Carolina. It doesn't really matter. You were a part of ending what could have been their playoff run at being 10-2. Think that has intensity? Guys, they had to go through you to get to the playoff, and they couldn't do it. You were the hiccup for some of those teams. Hell, you were in the mix with some of those teams. I don't know what Kurt Cignetti is thinking. Kurt Cignetti, to me, comes off as a very arrogant asshole. And I like some of the things he says when it comes to on the field, but he's coming off as an arrogant asshole. I don't know if you saw his comments today, and I would just throw this out there your way. The comments that he made in reference to we want to have like an SEC schedule. Dude, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? You play one of the softest schedules in the country. USC tried to cancel the game against LSU last year. You have Wake Forest canceling the game versus Ole Miss. You have Indiana canceling an ACC game versus Indiana. Oh, and I'm sure Indiana goes through a gauntlet in the beginning of the season. Oh, wait, Blake, they don't. They got Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Rudy Poo Tech. Yeah, truly testing yourself. In the SEC, for some of these teams, and like for LSU as an example, in the first 3 weeks, they got Clemson, and in week 3, they got Florida. Both of them have really good defensive lines that Curt Cignetti won't see until he goes up against Oregon. So spare me your little bullshit about, oh, we're trying to be like the SEC and making some cute little ass joke when you go into the playoffs and you talk about how aggressive you're going to be and take shots, and you got physically manhandled. You got physically manhandled. Guys, I'm not trying to be an SEC defender. I really am not. But, guys, I think we come to a situation where I think people, and I'm not going to use this word again, I don't know what people are thinking. I legitimately don't. I'm going to need somebody to explain to me how the AQ model works, why the Big Ten thinks they can puff their chest out and say, well, we won the last 2 national titles. We have a little bit of more respect. Brother, you lost 16 out of the last 20. Actually, you lost 18 out of the last 20. Actually, no, 17, because Ohio State got one in there too. You lost 17 of the last 20 national titles. Well, Blake, it's a new day with NIL and we can spend money. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Guys, there's no bigger game from a conference perspective, maybe this season, bigger than Texas at Ohio State and bigger than LSU at Clemson. If the SEC goes in there and goes into Texas and LSU both go 2-0, boy, the shit talking that Greg Sankey's going to have. The defending national champion, and look, I'm high on Texas this year for what it's worth. I think they're going to be a really good ball club. I think that they're going to be, their front seven is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. But the SEC and Big Ten are in an outright dog fight. And I don't know how else we can ignore this for me. I don't think the ACC deserves to get 2 teams in. We did that last year. We had that experience last year. Guys, SMU was the second team. 3 teams from the SEC beat Clemson last year. 3. And you want me to come in here and have automatic qualifiers and playing games because of some fake regionality when the team that you want from the SEC to stay out and the team that actually gets in is from the same exact state? Have you lost your godforsaken mind? Have you lost your godforsaken minds? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We try to be cute when talking about sports, and we make it overcomplicated. Guys, strength of schedule has got to mean something. There's 30 teams in the NFL. 30. You can't play all 129 or 132 teams that can qualify technically for the playoff. You can't do it. Guys, you have 100 plus more teams in college than you have in the NFL. And you want to come at me and talk to me about an NFL model like you're Eli Drinkwitz, like a dumbass. Are we that dumb? There are 130 teams in FBS football that technically can qualify for the playoff. And you want to talk to me about regionality? You want to talk to me about equality? Are you dumb? Guys, you go to that AQ model. Go to that AQ model and see what happens. Because it's essentially a 30-team playoff. The fuck are we doing? Last but not least, before we get to the LSU over-under. SMU head coach Rhett Lashlee had some words today for the SEC saying there was only 6 conference champions, different schools that have won conference championships in football in the SEC since 1964. Boy, what an interesting year to pull out. 6 teams while they were in the SEC won national titles since 2000. Rhett Lashlee, the SMU head coach today, called the SEC top heavy. The only heavy top I want to see is a pair of boobs. The SEC is not top heavy. Guys, South Carolina was the 7th best team in the SEC last year. And you're trying to tell me that it's, yes, at the top was it down some? Fine. You have your argument there. Are you going to come in here and tell me that the 7th best team in the SEC last year being South Carolina, and you want to run out here and try to convince me that they're down? The 7th best team in the Big Ten last year was Nebraska. Nebraska. Sure. Sounds good and all. Guys, this is getting abysmal. I mean, but you want to talk about top heavy? I'm talking about Dolly Parton top heavy. That's a little too big. Pause. But it is Dolly Parton. That's a little extreme for me. It's a little extreme for me. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, those things are just out there, man. They're like cannons. Bowling balls right in your face. The SEC shouldn't cower to anybody, and I do think this massively affects LSU. All right, let me get to a quick break. LSU over-under per SEC StatCat is 8.5. We'll talk about that when we come back. Do I think it's more or less, or what do I think about it? We'll talk about that next. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Hey, Southwest Louisiana. Are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat? Go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements.
We're back.
I did not check my DMs. I'm trying to get something verified very quickly. I'm going to hold off until I can get this verified because I don't know. Brandon Fairburn. I mean, it's pretty convincing. I'll just tell you what it is. Brandon Fairburn over at LSU First News. What was LSU or Louisiana First News? I don't think I've heard of Louisiana First. I don't know. Brandon Fairburn says breaking: former LSU running back Trey Holly is spotted in gear at Southern's first fall football practice. Let me get something verified. I'm not going to run it until we know. Let me get that verified. I don't know yet. I just trying to get it verified now. If so, good on Brandon Fairburn. I think I read his name wrong. Sorry, Brendan. Brendan. Sorry. I should get glasses. My bad, Brendan. I didn't mean to mess up your name. Hold on. It looks like this is legit. Chesa Boucher is also reporting it, that he is at Southern's practice. I'm going to hold off on talking about it. I want to find out what happened here. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. And I'm going to admittedly tell you I don't know what's going on here. Good for him. Glad that Trey Holly is able to play football. I'll just respond to it like this. I was very hopeful that very, very hopeful that Trey Holly would be in a situation where he can find himself back at LSU with all the legal stuff going on. I don't know. I want to know all the details before mentioning it. I would say the young man's just trying to get on the field. I would think he's just trying to get on the field. Wow. I hate this. With such a passion, I hate this. This whole, like, guys, what if Trey Holly, what if Trey Holly's found innocent? What if Trey Holly is found innocent? This is awful. I hate this. I'm glad for and happy for him, and I'm going to find out all the information. But man. Golly. I love reacting to news like this live on the air. It makes me feel very great about myself. All right, let's just say it like this. We know everything that's been going on in the Trey Holly case. If you haven't kept up with it lately, he was supposed to have a court date in July, earlier in July, or actually, I think last week, he was supposed to have a court date. That got pushed back because I think Union Parish, their AC went out and they had to get it fixed and they couldn't have the court date, which pushed back all the things of what he could do for LSU. if he's at Southern, I would love to know what LSU has pulled here and what is going on. I didn't see him in the portal. Technically, he wasn't on the team for LSU. I guess technically, if he does get acquitted and he's on the field at Southern, maybe he can come back to the portal and go back to LSU. Maybe be something that he can do. But I really hate it for the young man on something he might be found innocent on. There was also a report out there that some of the victims that claimed and witnesses that claimed that Trey Holly committed the crime of shooting another individual would be that they were just arrested for drug charges. That was also in the report. I hate this for him. I hate this for him that he could have had some impact for LSU. I'm glad for him that he can get an opportunity where he can be somewhere else and play some football. And I don't know. It's obviously a situation, but it's a situation with Trey Holly here that you sit here and say, man, what's going on? I don't know. I know Mac Markway was able to practice for Nebraska and he transferred and he was at LSU's football camp. I wonder if, there could be a situation if he gets acquitted that he can be reinstated at LSU and he can come back. I don't know any of those details. I'm happy for him and I'm also not happy for him at the same time, if that makes sense. Because, he committed to LSU and I don't mean this with any disrespect to Southern. You would want to play at LSU and have impacted LSU over Southern. And that's not, I don't mean that disrespectfully, right? Like, I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. I'm just calling it what it is. Same for ULM, ULL. Southern's, I'm not putting down on Southern, but good for Trey Holly and also bad for Trey Holly on something that he might be found innocent. And, guys, that looks very real. The Chesa Boucher clipped a photo in it. Trey Holly is literally at a Southern practice. So we'll see. And LSU has stood by him. So it's going to be a very interesting thing to see of what's going on with Trey Holly, and I'm sure we'll find out more details after we're long gone from this show. But it is what it is. All right. Before we get out of here, LSU Stat or SEC Stat Award, SEC Stat Cat did 100 simulations of LSU's season and what the average was of wins that they had throughout the season. It was at 8.5 for LSU this year in 100 simulations used by AI to get to 8.5, 8.4 technically. Guys, I really think that LSU is going to have more than 8 wins this year. I do think under Brian Kelly, you hit a certain floor. I think that you got to your certain floor a year ago. And it just comes to a point in time where I look at what happened a season ago, and you're not in the situation at 8-4 that you want to be at, but you also get to a situation where, guys, I know that you're better. You're a win game better than you were a year ago. You are. So whether you go 9-3 or whether you go 10-2 or 11-1 or hell, you go undefeated in the regular season, which I don't think any team can do. But you get to a situation where, guys, maybe some of those are just a really bad, some of those simulations have Clemson winning, then Florida winning, then, because your schedule is much tougher than some of those teams in the Big Ten. But I don't know if 9-10 is not where you're going to sit. I think that you probably will be a 10-win team. I think you can get there. I can see you at 9 wins, and I can see you at 8 wins. I could see Clemson, you losing to Clemson. I can see you losing to Bama. I can see you losing, going on the road to Oklahoma. Like, there are games in there, and do you slip up at one at home that you're not supposed to? Now, Brian Kelly, for what it's worth, has been pretty exceptional at home. If I'm not mistaken, until Bama came in here and then Tennessee, he's lost 2 games at home and what will be 3 seasons. I don't think that's bad at all. Do you lose to Ole Miss on the road? I mean, like, those are so many situations in games. I just think that you're a better team this year. I think that you have a lot more talent than some of the teams. And I think you have a really good head coach for on-field situations. You got a lot of holes, and you got a lot of questions. Does LSU? But, man, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Last thing. And we're getting out of here. Shaq was on a podcast this week, and forgive me for not knowing the podcast. I should have wrote that down. Shaquille O'Neal was asked about the LSU men's basketball situation that they currently sit. Shaquille O'Neal was asked if he thought that LSU basketball will ever be like a real contender, like LSU football, like LSU baseball, gymnastics, whatever. And Shaq said no, because they're not going to get the support that football, baseball, and other sports get. And it's because they're not winning. Guys, that's the best LSU basketball player not named Pete Maravich in LSU's history. A guy who literally during Omaha was at LSU working out. He said, I left LSU football's facility worth $300 million. Then I went over to LSU basketball's facility. It's worth $300,000. It's a massive difference. The reason it's like that is because you're not winning. You're damn right. Remember that conversation we had about Jay Johnson not getting as much TV revenue as he needs? Remember that. You have the best of all time telling you the truth, saying they shouldn't because they haven't done it, and they're going to have to prove that they can do it, but it doesn't matter because you're spending $250 million to make it better for them. I thought LSU didn't have the money. Oh, my God, how are we going to pay for all of this? Well, I have a pretty good idea how you're going to pay for it. Pretty good idea. So we'll see. All right. We'll find out more about this Trey Holly situation. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Until then, we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a blessed night. Peace.